Libra, my beloved seeker of harmony and hidden truths, let me ask you something bold right from the start. What if everything you thought was peace was actually a quiet plan of deception? This message is not just a reading. It's a sacred interruption in your timeline. If you've been feeling a strange pull lately, as if invisible hands were trying to steer your destiny off course, then stay with me, because the truth unfolding here today may be the breakthrough your soul has been praying for. Welcome to Zodiac Whisper Tarot, where the whispers of the cosmos meet the courage of your awakening. This isn't just a horoscope video, this is a portal. And your presence here right now is divinely timed. You didn't stumble upon this. The universe knows that someone has been quietly dimming your light while calling it love, and it's time you saw clearly. Libra, you who always fight for balance and kindness, it's now your turn to be fought for. Not by others, but by your own soul reclaiming its throne. There are two people. Yes, two. Their energy surrounds you like fog, one cold and calculating, the other cloaked in emotional guilt or even spiritual manipulation. Maybe you've sensed them. Maybe you've explained it away to keep the peace. But peace that costs you your voice is not peace. It's surrender. And perhaps you've been exhausted lately emotionally, physically, spiritually. You can't quite name the source, but your intuition is screaming that something is off. That's not paranoia, Libra. That's spiritual intelligence. And today, we're going to follow that signal to its source. One truth at a time. One layer at a time. Until the fog lifts and you stand in clarity, no longer someone's pawn in a hidden game. Let me take a moment to express my deepest gratitude for your presence here, for every like, every comment you feel called to share, every subscription that draws you deeper into this growing cosmic family at Zodiac Whisper Tarot. Thank you, truly, from the bottom of my soul. Your support breathes life into this space and empowers us to continue bringing transformational messages to light. And Libra, I promise you'll want to stay with me until the very last moment of this reading. What the universe is revealing is not only powerful, it's divine. You are being guided toward a choice that could reshape the next chapter of your life. So let me ask you, what synchronicity brought you here today? What energy led your heart to pause, to click, to listen? Go ahead, take a breath. And when you're ready, comment below with a sacred number that resonates with you today. Maybe it's 2, maybe 11, maybe 333. Declare your presence. Confirm your connection. Because that one comment might just be the moment you say, I see it now, I am ready. And now, let's begin this journey into the hidden truth and the sacred freedom waiting on the other side. Perhaps you didn't realize how long you've been carrying the weight of keeping everyone else in harmony. For Libra, the natural peacemaker of the zodiac, the desire to create balance is instinctual, almost sacred. But even the noblest instincts, when taken to an extreme, can become the very chains that bind us. There's a difference between peace and suppression, between compromise and self-erasure. And for many Libras, the line between the two has been crossed far too often, not by your enemies, but by those you tried hardest to keep close. When we constantly silence our truth to avoid discomfort, what we're really doing is slowly dissolving the essence of who we are. And Libra, you've been doing that quietly, gently, and for far too long. You may have smiled while holding back tears, nodded in agreement while your soul whispered no, or kept peace at the cost of your own clarity. And because your energy is refined, intelligent, and deeply intuitive, others have learned to lean on you, some with gratitude, and others with manipulation. What's unfolding here is not just emotional exhaustion. It's a karmic pattern that's revealing itself through the presence of two distinct energies around you. One is highly strategic, the kind of person who presents themselves as helpful, even noble, while subtly steering your life for their benefit. They may speak with calm reason, they may offer solutions, but underneath it lies control, a calculated need to keep you doubting your own judgment so that you continue to rely on theirs. The second is a feminine presence, but not necessarily a woman. It's an emotional current masked as love or loyalty, pulling you in through guilt, nostalgia, or a sense of obligation. This person may use tears, silence, or emotional pressure to keep you in place, not because they cherish you, but because they fear losing the power they hold over you. These two forces aren't always easy to identify, especially when they were the faces of people you once trusted, loved, or even protected. But the signs are there. The emotional fatigue that has no physical explanation. The reluctance to speak up, even when you're right. The feeling that you're carrying others through storms you didn't create. These are red flags, not spiritual duties. And here's the truth that brings liberation. You are not responsible for keeping the balance at the cost of your well-being. Sometimes, real peace requires disruption. True love never asks you to shrink. And real spiritual alignment will never demand your silence. The divine doesn't speak in guilt or fear, it speaks in stillness, in clarity, and in strength. There is a quiet voice inside you, perhaps one you've ignored, that's been gently repeating, "This isn't love. This isn't truth. This isn't me." And now, you're ready to hear it. You were never meant to live under someone else's idea of harmony. Your role was never to be the bridge people trample on to reach their own stability. You were meant to be the architect of your own peace. And peace, dear Libra, sometimes begins with a sacred no. No to emotional blackmail. No to guilt-based loyalty. No to contracts that strip away your voice. There's divine wisdom in choosing yourself. And though it may seem harsh, sometimes the most compassionate act, even the most God-aligned act, is to walk away from the chaos you didn't create, so that you can finally build the sanctuary your spirit deserves. So take a breath, Libra. Feel your chest rise with permission. The permission to no longer play small. The permission to disrupt the pattern. The permission to say, "I'm done giving more than I receive." And if this resonates with you, if you know in your heart this is your moment of clarity, share your voice below. Let the universe hear you. Let your soul feel seen. Tell me, what's one thing you've kept quiet about for too long? This is your sacred space now. Use it. Sometimes the most dangerous cages are the ones that look like safety. You may not see the bars at first because they come wrapped in affection, promises, or even the language of loyalty. But Libra, your spirit knows. Deep down, you've begun to feel that something isn't quite right. The offers that once felt like support now feel like traps. The relationships that promised growth now only offer confinement. And you, the sign of the scales, are starting to recognize the imbalance, not with your mind, but with your soul. As someone who guides others through the language of the stars, I can tell you, this isn't just a personal struggle, it's an energetic turning point. With Venus, your ruling planet, entering a phase of cosmic refinement this month. What is not aligned with your truth will naturally begin to fall away. But only if you allow it. Only if you stop clinging to illusions dressed as devotion. This is where the challenge lies. You see, harmful attachments rarely arrive announcing their true intent. Instead, they often come cloaked in the familiar. In words like, "I only want the best for you," or "You owe me for all I've done," or "This is what love looks like." But love, true love, whether romantic, platonic, or professional, never demands that you shrink. It never insists that you compromise your voice, your boundaries, or your intuition. When it does, what you're dealing with is not love, but subtle control. And this form of control is clever. It can look like help. It can sound like opportunity. It can feel like safety, especially when you've been tired, uncertain, or emotionally drained. You may have been offered a contract, a commitment, a new direction, something that seems positive on the surface. But underneath, there's a condition: you must ignore the knot in your stomach. You must silence your doubts. You must be grateful, even if it means compromising yourself. This is the golden cage, the illusion of freedom, while slowly surrendering your power. As a Libra, your innate desire to keep the peace can sometimes be used against you. When others realize how far you'll go to avoid conflict or discomfort, they may exploit it. And while you may not recognize this as abuse because it doesn't look violent, the erosion of your self-trust is one of the most subtle forms of harm. From the lens of self-help and energetic truth, the advice is clear: never let obligation override your intuition. Never let a beautiful package fool you into accepting something you know isn't right. Even in sacred scripture, we are reminded to be wise as serpents and gentle as doves, to recognize that not all who claim love are guided by love, and not all who offer help do so without agenda. Trust is earned. And your peace is precious. If a situation is asking you to give more than you receive, to silence your instincts for the sake of keeping someone else calm, or to sign something when your gut says wait, stop. Pause. Breathe. The stars are not punishing you by revealing these truths, they are liberating you. You're not being dramatic. You're awakening. This moment in your journey is a sacred test. Will you stay in the cage because it feels polite? Or will you risk discomfort for the sake of reclaiming your freedom? No one can choose that for you. But know this: the universe never asks you to sacrifice your light for someone else's shadow. And the most divine kind of strength is often expressed in the soft, firm word, no. Some shifts begin quietly, not with fireworks, but with a whisper inside that says, "I'm not doing this anymore." And Libra, I believe you're standing at the threshold of one of those shifts. You're no longer the version of yourself who tolerated discomfort just to avoid disturbing the peace. The inner harmony you used to protect so fiercely is now asking to be reclaimed, not by pleasing others, but by honoring the truth that's always been yours. It's remarkable, really, how your awakening shakes the foundations of those who once held power over you. Not because you've become loud or angry, but because you've become clear. Manipulators don't fear confrontation, they fear clarity. And when you begin to say no with gentle certainty, when you no longer bend to expectations wrapped in emotional pressure, their influence begins to dissolve. You are not the same Libra who once walked on eggshells to preserve a fragile dynamic. You've begun to rise in quiet ways that echo loudly in the hearts of those who can no longer use your empathy as leverage. There's something profound in realizing that the people who accidentally reappear in your life aren't returning out of love but out of necessity. Not because they miss you but because your energy was their anchor, their supply. The moment you stop playing your old role in their script, the play falls apart. And that, dear Libra, is your true power. You are no longer acting. You are now authoring your life. This healing isn't just emotional. It's energetic. And it begins the moment you stop apologizing for being awake. Maybe you've been told that walking away is cruel, or that choosing yourself is selfish. But what if the most loving thing you could do for yourself and for others is to stop pretending? What if peace was never meant to come from silence, but from truth? As a guide and energy reader, I've seen this exact transformation in those who were once afraid to disturb the status quo. And in every case, once they began listening to the still, small voice inside, everything began to change. You don't need to shout to be free. You just need to stop whispering yes to what's clearly a no in your soul. Even in spiritual wisdom passed down through generations, there's an understanding that false peace is not peace at all. Sometimes, we are asked to walk away not out of rebellion, but out of reverence for who we are becoming. The softest kind of courage is saying, I will not keep hurting just to keep someone else comfortable. That's not betrayal. That's alignment. So let me ask you, how long has it been since you stood in front of your reflection and told yourself the truth? How long has it been since you said, I deserve better, and actually meant it? Not in anger, but in quiet knowing. Not to fight someone else but to reclaim yourself. Because that is where real transformation begins. Not when others validate your decision, but when you validate your own voice. The version of you who once needed to be needed is dissolving. And in its place is a wiser, clearer, freer you. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't have to prove your worth through endurance. You are not here to be drained. You are here to be radiant. To reflect the balance you seek within, not by staying in places that demand your shrinking, but by choosing spaces that celebrate your expansion. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. Present enough to notice when something no longer serves your spirit. Brave enough to make a different choice. Libra, this is your invitation to rise. Not as a reaction but as a return. To who you've always been beneath the layers, graceful, wise, and no longer afraid to choose truth over comfort. Opportunities often arrive when you finally release what was never meant to stay. That's exactly where you are now, Libra, standing in front of a door that's slowly opening, a door carved not by fate alone, but by your willingness to choose differently. The universe never withholds blessings, it waits for your readiness. And readiness doesn't come from pushing harder or being more perfect, it comes from surrendering the things that quietly drain your spirit. The moment you let go of the connections that ask you to abandon yourself, you send out a powerful signal. Not just to the stars, but to your own inner field of energy. I'm available for what truly honors me. That is the law of attraction in its most subtle and powerful form. When you no longer entertain what manipulates, what half loves, what takes more than it gives, you create a space not empty, but sacred for what is real to find you. This is not about cutting people off in anger. It's about choosing alignment over obligation. When you stop trying to heal others by harming yourself, your frequency shifts. And in that shift, everything starts to move: relationships, money, health, direction. The whole field recalibrates. I often say to those I guide, the people meant for you won't require your silence. The partners meant for you won't fear your power. You won't have to shrink to be accepted. And Libra, you are closer than ever to meeting such people, those who will not only respect your boundaries but celebrate your balance. But here's the quiet catch: they can't reach you if you're still energetically tied to the past. You can't hold the new and the old in the same hands. The door is opening, yes, but you must be the one to walk through it. There are signs already: unexpected clarity in conversations, recurring numbers like 6, 9, or 15, symbols of balance, universal justice, and unconditional love. You may find yourself drawn to certain colors more than usual, especially emerald green, which supports release from energetic control, or soft milk white, which awakens truth and inner wisdom. These aren't random preferences, they are energetic cues that you're aligning with a higher vibration. On a practical level, take this as an invitation to care for your nervous system. You've been under emotional strain, and your body is asking for calm. Support it gently: magnesium-rich foods, herbal teas like chamomile or lemon balm, quiet moments without screens. Even reducing caffeine for a few days can help you listen to your intuition more clearly. In your work, pause before saying yes. Read the fine print, not just in contracts, but in conversations. What's the unspoken price behind that opportunity? In finances, you may feel the urge to share exciting news or plans, but keep them close for now. Let them take root in quiet. And when it comes to love, remember, kindness doesn't mean sacrifice. If someone only values you when you're bending, that's not love, that's a transaction. Real love doesn't ask you to prove your worth over and over. It meets you where you are and helps you rise. All of this may sound simple, but choosing it in real life takes deep self-trust. That's what this moment is about: you deciding that you are worthy of a life that reflects your truth, not your guilt. In the spiritual journey, we are reminded that divine justice isn't punishment, it's realignment. That when you act with integrity, even quietly, you move the heavens on your behalf. So trust that by walking away from what you've outgrown, you are walking straight toward what you've always deserved. And it is closer than you think. It may seem like others have been pulling the strings, like certain people have been strategizing behind the scenes, weaving a narrative in which you are merely a supporting role. But the truth is, Libra, the moment you become aware of the game, you are no longer a piece on the board, you are the one setting the rules. That realization, subtle as it may be, is the very moment the entire storyline shifts. Their plan might be in motion, but the outcome is yours to write. You are not here to be managed, manipulated, or maneuvered into quiet corners. You are here to lead your own life gracefully, wisely, and from within. That quiet voice you've been hearing? That pull in your stomach, the chills that move through your arms when you sense something is off? That is your compass. That is your intuitive knowing. And it's not a maybe. It's not a guess. It's real. Your intuition has never failed you. What's been missing is your full permission to follow it. The archetype of justice, especially as it relates to Libra, is not just a symbol of fairness in the outer world, it's a deep inner alignment with what is true. When you step into that energy, when you make choices based on clarity rather than guilt, you retrieve the power that may have been slowly siphoned away from you. And alongside justice walks the high priestess, the sacred keeper of inner wisdom. She doesn't shout. She doesn't explain. She knows. And that is the version of you the world needs now. So what does this look like in your daily life? Start small. Take out a piece of paper and write down 3 relationships, commitments, or patterns that leave you feeling tired, uncertain, or diminished. Don't judge them. Just name them. And then gently ask, if I let this go, would I feel lighter? Would I breathe deeper? Would I come home to myself again? This isn't about blame. This is about responsibility, the kind that frees rather than burdens. You are being asked, not by anyone outside of you, but by your own evolution, to choose yourself. For the next 7 days, spend 5 quiet minutes each morning or night, not trying to fix anything, but simply sitting with the intention, I choose truth. I choose myself. Let it anchor into your breath. Let it echo through your nervous system. Let it become a gentle reminder that you don't need permission to return to who you really are. And if doubt arises, as it sometimes does when we begin to reclaim our voice, remember that even in the most ancient wisdom, we are reminded to guard our hearts with discernment and to walk in wisdom, not fear. That means you don't have to fight. You don't need to expose anyone. You only need to stop participating in cycles that betray your spirit. You are being called to act, not out of reactivity, but out of remembrance. The person you were a year ago may have tolerated things in the name of peace. But the person you are now, the one who's quietly rising, is ready to live in full alignment. Not just in words, but in choices. Not just in intention, but in energy. So ask yourself, right now, what truth am I finally ready to honor? And what power do I get back the moment I do? This is your shift point. This is the page turning. What happens next is yours to define. Not because someone gave you permission, but because you finally gave it to yourself. And now, Libra, if you've made it to this moment, take a breath, not just to pause, but to honor the version of you that showed up today. The part of you that stayed present through every word, every insight, and every quiet truth whispered between the lines. You came here seeking clarity, maybe without even realizing it, and what you found was a mirror, one that reflected not just your struggles, but your strength. Not just what hurt you, but what is now trying to heal through you. You don't need to wait for someone to choose you. You don't need permission to stand taller. You are not here to earn peace by keeping yourself small. You were never meant to walk on tiptoes through life just to make others feel comfortable. The moment you decided to question the patterns, to listen to your body, to follow your intuition, that's the moment you began reclaiming your story. Quietly. Powerfully. Without fanfare, but with unshakable truth. And maybe the journey ahead still feels uncertain. Maybe you're not sure what happens next. But you don't have to know it all today. You just have to know that you are no longer available for a life that requires you to betray yourself. That is your turning point. That is the sacred decision the universe responds to. Because the stars may illuminate the path, but only you can take the steps. So let me ask you now, what is one truth you're ready to stop avoiding? What is one boundary you've been afraid to draw? And if you did choose yourself not out of spite, but out of self-respect, what would your life begin to feel like? Imagine it. Feel it. Let that vision be the North Star you walk toward from this moment on. You are not who they said you were. You are not who you were when you were still trying to be loved by being less. You are the author now. The energy has shifted. The script is in your hands. What you write next is yours, unfiltered, unbound, and filled with light. And if something stirred in you while listening, even a subtle knowing, even the tiniest breath of relief, don't let that moment pass quietly. Claim it. Anchor it. Comment below with a word or phrase that spoke to you most. Let it be your declaration. Your soul deserves to be heard, and your voice may very well inspire someone else's awakening too. If this video touched something sacred in you, I invite you to subscribe to Zodiac Whisper Tarot. Each message here is created with intention, healing, and a deep belief that your growth is not only possible, it's inevitable. Thank you, deeply, for being here. For choosing this space. For choosing yourself. And as we close, remember this: you are not late. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be, at the edge of your own transformation. You're not just listening to a message, you are becoming the message. And I, for one, cannot wait to see what the next chapter of your journey looks like.